Marcus Kane had never imagined his life would turn out this way. He had left Earth years ago, searching for adventure and opportunity on the far edges of human-colonized space. His older brother Daniel had always been the brave one, the risk-taker, the one who dived headfirst into alien politics and came back smiling. Marcus was the cautious one, the man who preferred fixing broken engines over making bold promises. But now Daniel was gone, and Marcus stood under the violet sky of the Sarathi homeworld, watching the smoke rise from the funeral pyre. The Sarathi were not like humans. They were taller, with elegant frames and pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the sun. Their culture was full of tradition, rules that were carved in stone long before humans ever set foot on their planet. To them, death was not just the end of a life. It was a chain that bound the living to the dead. And Marcus, as Daniel's brother, was about to find out just how heavy that chain could be. He had come only to honor his brother. He stood in silence, wearing the black robes they had forced on him, listening to the chants of the alien elders. Lyra stood at the front of the gathering, her head bowed, her face unreadable. She was Daniel's widow, the Sarathi woman who had given up everything to marry a human. Marcus had spoken to her only a handful of times before, and even then, their conversations had been polite but strained. Now she looked like a statue carved out of grief, still and distant as the flames consumed the last of Daniel's body. When the chants ended and the crowd began to disperse, Marcus expected to leave quietly. He wanted to retreat to his quarters, maybe drink himself into silence and avoid the endless questions gnawing at his mind. But the Sarathi elders stepped forward, their long silver robes dragging along the ground, their eyes sharp and cold. "Marcus Kane," one of them said in a voice that carried across the courtyard. "The bond must be preserved." Marcus frowned. "What bond?" Another elder spoke, his tone calm but final, as if no room for argument existed. "Your brother's widow cannot remain unbound. The Sarathi way is clear. The closest male kin must take the widow as his own. You will marry Lyra." For a moment, Marcus thought he had misheard them. He laughed, though the sound came out strained. "That's insane! With all respect, that's not happening. I came here to bury my brother, not—" The elder raised his hand, cutting him off. "Tradition is not a matter of choice. It is the way of our people. Refuse, and you dishonor the bond your brother made with our clan. Refuse, and you will bring shame upon his memory." The words struck Marcus harder than he expected. Shame on Daniel's memory. Daniel had loved these people enough to marry into them, to fight for their place in the colony, to risk his life working the mines that were now his grave. If Marcus refused, would they speak of Daniel as a fool who had chosen poorly? Would his name be dragged through their history as a stain? Lyra finally raised her head, her eyes meeting his for the first time. There was no warmth in them, only exhaustion and resignation. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Marcus saw the truth in her silence. She had no choice in this either. "I don't want this," Marcus said softly, his voice breaking despite his effort to sound firm. "I never asked for this." "No one asks," the elder replied. "It is what must be done." The rest of the day moved in a blur. Marcus tried to argue, but every word was crushed under the weight of tradition. The Sarathi did not shout, did not threaten, but their calm certainty was worse than violence. They spoke as though the universe itself agreed with them, as though his refusal would be as foolish as refusing gravity. By nightfall, Marcus found himself seated beside Lyra in the great hall, their hands bound together by a silver thread that glowed faintly in the firelight. The marriage was sealed in front of the clan, witnessed by dozens of solemn faces. He didn't feel married. He felt trapped. When the hall emptied and the ceremony was done, Marcus was led to the quarters that had once belonged to his brother. The same walls, the same furnishings, the same quiet shadows. Lyra walked ahead of him, her movements graceful but heavy with grief. When she finally turned to him, her voice was cold and sharp. "Do not think this makes you my husband in truth," she said. "You are here because tradition demands it, nothing more." Marcus stared at her, too tired to argue. "Trust me, I don't want this any more than you do." For the first time, a flicker of something almost like relief passed across her face. "Good. Then we understand each other." She left him there, closing the door to her own chamber without another word. Marcus sank into a chair, his head in his hands. His brother was dead, his freedom stolen, and his future tied to a woman who wished he didn't exist. Lyra was already awake when he stepped into the courtyard. She wore the long, flowing robes of her people, her face calm but unreadable. She stood at a fountain, her hands moving gracefully through the water, as if trying to wash away the weight of yesterday. When she turned, her eyes passed over him without warmth. "You should not linger," she said softly. "The elders expect us to show respect this morning. Appearances matter." Marcus let out a humorless laugh. "Appearances, right. Because this is all about how it looks, isn't it? Not what either of us wants." Her gaze narrowed. "If you speak too loudly, they will hear, and then we will both pay for it." There was something in her voice, not fear exactly, but a warning that made Marcus pause. He had never been good at reading Sarathi expressions, but the tension in her posture was clear enough. She was as much a prisoner of this arrangement as he was. The meal that morning was eaten in silence with the elders, long tables filled with fruits that glowed faintly, and meat spiced with scents Marcus couldn't name. He sat beside Lyra, their chairs close but their bodies distant. Every word spoken around them was in the Sarathi tongue, and though Marcus understood some of it, he caught only fragments: tradition, unity, inheritance. Each time his name was mentioned, the elders glanced at him as though measuring a tool, not a man. Afterward, Lyra excused herself with a bow, leaving Marcus to wander through the halls. He found himself drawn again to Daniel's old quarters. The journal sat where he had left it, half buried under a pile of tools. Marcus picked it up, thumbing through pages of neat handwriting. His brother had written about the mines, the dangers, the endless negotiations with the Sarathi clans. But near the end, the entries grew strange, references to something hidden, something too valuable to trust with anyone but family. Marcus frowned, his mind circling questions he had no answers for. That afternoon, one of the younger Sarathi approached him. She was a servant girl, her silver eyes darting nervously as she bowed. "Husband of Lyra," she said, her accent heavy. "The council speaks of you. Some doubt you are strong enough." Marcus stiffened. Strong enough for what? She shook her head quickly. "I cannot say. Be careful. They smile at you, but not all wish you to stay." Before he could ask more, she slipped away into the shadows of the hall. Unease settled deep in his chest. He had known from the start that this marriage wasn't about love or even tradition alone. Something else hung in the air, something unspoken. And the more he thought about his brother's final writings, the more convinced he became that Daniel had discovered something dangerous. That evening, Marcus found Lyra sitting in the garden. She was staring at the sky, the strange twin moons, casting pale light across her face. For a long time he stood in silence, then finally said, "You don't want this marriage. I don't want it either. But if we're both stuck in it, maybe we should at least try to understand what's going on. What really happened to Daniel?" Her eyes flicked to him, sharp and suspicious. "Why do you ask?" "Because nothing makes sense," Marcus replied. The accident, the way the elders forced us together, the things he wrote in his journal. He mentioned something important, something he didn't trust anyone else with. You must know what it was. For a moment she said nothing, her expression locked in stone. Then she whispered, "You should not speak of this." Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. "He was my brother. If he left behind something that could put us both in danger, I need to know." She stood, her robe sweeping around her. Daniel was reckless. He found things that were not meant to be found. He believed he could change the balance between our people and yours. That belief cost him his life. The words hit Marcus like a blow. "Are you saying he was killed?" Her silence was answer enough. He clenched his fists, anger rising in his chest. "And now they've tied me to you so they can keep it in the family. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Not tradition, not honor. The elders want whatever he found." Lyra's face softened, just slightly. "You see more clearly than most humans. But speak carefully, Marcus Kane. The walls here have ears, and if they believe you know too much, you will join your brother sooner than you think." The night grew colder, but Marcus hardly felt it. He realized then that he was caught in something much larger than a forced marriage. His brother had died for a reason, and the Scifi clan meant to control that reason at any cost. As he stood in the garden, staring at the alien sky, Marcus swore silently to himself. "Arcus will know what to do." Marcus whispered the words to himself, gripping the book tighter. They must never find it. But what was it? The desk drawers held nothing unusual: tools, scraps of metal, old notes. But when he tapped along the back panel, he heard a faint hollow sound. With careful hands, he pulled at the wood until a hidden compartment slid open. Inside lay a small object wrapped in dark cloth. When he unrolled it, he found a metal device no larger than his palm, etched with alien markings that glowed faintly in the dark. The moment he touched it, the markings flared with light, lines of silver tracing across the surface. Marcus gasped and nearly dropped it, but the glow faded quickly, returning to silence as if it had tested him. His pulse raced. Whatever this was, it wasn't ordinary Scifi technology. And if Daniel had hidden it, there had to be a reason. Before he could study it further, the door creaked. Marcus shoved the device back into the compartment and slammed. It shut. Lyra stepped into the room, her face caught between shadow and moonlight. She looked at him with suspicion. "You should not be here," she said quietly. Marcus forced his voice to sound calm. "This was my brother's room. I have as much right to be here as anyone." Her eyes flicked to the desk, sharp and searching. "Do not play games. If you dig too deep, the elders will notice. And when they notice, you will not survive it." He held her gaze. "Then tell me what they're hiding. Tell me why Daniel died." Lyra's expression softened just slightly, though her voice remained guarded. "He found something ancient, a relic from long before our time, power that even the Scifi fear to wield. He thought he could protect it, but protection is a dangerous word among my people. To them, everything of value must be controlled." Marcus leaned closer. "And now they've tied me to you so they can keep control through us." Her silence was enough to confirm it. The days that followed grew heavier. The elders spoke often in private, their eyes drifting toward Marcus and Lyra whenever they entered the hall. Servants whispered as they passed, some bowing lower than usual, others avoiding Marcus's gaze entirely. He began to feel like prey in a field of hunters, watched and judged by every shadow. One afternoon, while walking with Lyra through the gardens, Marcus finally broke the silence between them. "You said Daniel was reckless. Was that why you married him? Because he was different?" Her steps slowed. For the first time, her face softened with something like sorrow. "He was kind. More than my own people allowed themselves to be. He believed in change, believed that humans and Sarathi could build something new together. At first, I thought him foolish. Then I saw that he meant every word. That was why I chose him, even when my clan disapproved. Marcus felt a sting of guilt. And now you're forced to live with me, someone you never chose. Her eyes met his, steady and sharp. You are not Daniel, but you are not weak either. Perhaps the elders underestimate you. Marcus gave a bitter laugh. I'm not sure that's a good thing. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay awake, listening to the hum of alien insects outside the window, his mind racing. Finally, he returned to the desk, heart pounding as he opened the hidden compartment again. He pulled out the device and studied it under the dim light. The glowing patterns shifted faintly under his touch, like rivers of light following unseen paths. Suddenly, a voice whispered behind him. You should not let them see you with that. Marcus spun, clutching the device to his chest. Lyra stood in the doorway, her face unreadable. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. If the council learns you have it, they will not stop at threats. They will kill you, and me. Then tell me what it is, Marcus demanded. She hesitated, then whispered, It is called the Heart of Ashara, a fragment of our oldest technology. It can create or destroy entire worlds if awakened fully. The clans have fought over it for centuries, each swearing it no longer exists. But Daniel found it buried in the mines. That was why he died. Marcus stared at the glowing patterns, a weight settling in his chest. He had expected gold, jewels, maybe rare minerals. Not this, not something that could alter the fate of two species. Lyra's eyes searched his face. Now you understand why they forced this marriage. They think the heart is bound to blood. They think only Daniel's line can awaken it. That is why you are here. Marcus closed his hand around the device, his jaw tightening. For the first time since Daniel's death, he felt a spark of something other than grief or anger. He felt resolve. They may have forced me into this, he said quietly, but I won't let them control me. If my brother died for this, then I'll make sure it doesn't end the same way for us. Lyra studied him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. For the first time, it wasn't cold or distant. It was a sign of trust. As the night deepened, Marcus realized his life was no longer his own. He was tied to something far greater than himself, something that could decide the future of both humans and Sarathi. And now, whether he wanted it or not, he would have to play the dangerous game his brother had left behind. Marcus awoke the next morning to a silence that felt heavier than the night before. The heart of Ashara was hidden again, locked away in the compartment of Daniel's desk, but his thoughts spun endlessly around it. Every glance from a servant, every whispered word in the halls now seemed sharper, more dangerous. He knew the elders were waiting for the moment he slipped, waiting to take what they believed belonged to the clan. When he entered the hall for the morning meal, he noticed the change immediately. The elders spoke less, their voices hushed, but their eyes always drifting toward him and Lyra. It was as if they expected him to reveal himself without realizing it. Marcus sat stiffly beside her, keeping his face calm though inside his nerves twisted. Lyra didn't speak either. Her eyes stayed fixed on her plate, her movements controlled, almost mechanical. After the meal, one of the younger warriors approached Marcus. His name was Sarvan, tall even for a Sarathi, with pale skin that gleamed like steel under the torches. He leaned close, his voice low but edged with challenge. A human has no place binding himself to our widow. Do you truly believe you are worthy of her? Or do you cling to her because of what your brother left behind? Marcus felt his fists tighten under the table, but he forced himself to keep calm. I didn't ask for this marriage, he said evenly, but I'll respect it, whether you think I'm worthy or not. Sarvan's lips curled into something between a sneer and a smile. We shall see how long that respect lasts. He turned, away, his robes sweeping behind him like the tail of some hunting beast. Later that day, Marcus found Lyra in the garden again, her gaze fixed on the twin moons above. He hesitated before speaking. "They're testing me, pushing, waiting for me to break. That Sarvan made it clear enough." She didn't look at him. "Sarvan serves the Council's will. He will not act unless they give him reason." Marcus stepped closer. "And what happens when they decide I've become too much of a risk?" Finally, her eyes turned to him. They were weary, shadowed by secrets she had carried alone for too long. "Then they will do what they did to Daniel." The words landed like a blade between them. Marcus exhaled sharply, anger burning behind his ribs. "And you're just going to let them? Pretend nothing is happening while they play with our lives?" Lyra's voice rose, sharp but trembling at the edges. "You think I wanted this? You think I chose to watch the man I loved die and then be handed to his brother as if I were nothing more than a contract? I live in their shadow every day, Marcus, every word, every breath, judged and controlled. You are not the only one trapped here." Her words cut through his anger, leaving silence between them. Marcus swallowed hard, realizing for the first time how much pain she carried beneath her calm mask. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't see it that way." For the first time since their forced marriage, Lyra's expression softened. "Daniel believed you were different. He said you had a strength hidden beneath your caution. Perhaps he was right." The air between them shifted, fragile but no longer hostile. That night, as Marcus lay in the quiet of the chamber, a sound outside made him freeze. Soft footsteps, too careful to be ordinary. He rose silently, moving toward the door. When he opened it a crack, he saw shadows moving in the corridor, 3 figures cloaked in dark robes, their steps purposeful, heading toward Daniel's old room. Marcus's heart pounded. They were searching for the heart. He slipped back inside and grabbed the device from its hiding place. The markings flared faintly as his fingers touched it, as though recognizing him. He quickly wrapped it in cloth and tucked it beneath his robe. Then he crossed to Lyra's chamber and tapped softly at her door. She opened it, her eyes narrowing when she saw his tense expression. "What is it?" "They're searching," he whispered. "Now, we have to move." Lyra's gaze dropped to the shape hidden under his robe, and she understood instantly. Without another word, she pulled on her cloak and followed him. Together they slipped through the quiet halls, avoiding the robed figures, until they reached a side passage that led into the outer gardens. The night air was cool and sharp. Marcus's breath came fast as they moved through the shadows of tall stone pillars. Lyra led him toward a hidden archway, one that opened onto the narrow paths along the cliffs. From here, the view of the city stretched below, lights glowing, faintly in the alien mist. They stopped, their backs pressed against the stone, listening to the sound of distant footsteps behind them. Lyra's voice was barely audible. "You should have left it hidden. Now they will not stop." Marcus looked at her, his jaw tight. "If I left it, they'd have found it anyway. And once they had it, what do you think they'd do? Share its power? Use it wisely? No. They'd control everyone with it. Humans and Sarathi alike." She studied him for a long moment, then said, "You sound like Daniel." A strange silence followed, heavy with memory and loss. Marcus wanted to say more, but the sound of voices nearby forced them to move again. They crept further along the cliffs until they reached a small alcove cut into the rock. Here they could hide, at least for the night. As they sat in the shadows, Marcus finally allowed himself to breathe. His hands tightened around the wrapped relic, feeling the faint hum of power within it. He glanced at Lyra, who sat beside him, with her head bowed, her hair falling across her face. "We can't stay here forever," he said quietly. "But if we run, They'll hunt us. If we stay, they'll kill us. Either way, the only chance we have is to use this thing before they take it." Lyra looked up at him, her eyes dark in the moonlight. "You do not understand its danger. The heart is not a weapon to be used lightly. It changes whoever holds it. Daniel thought he could resist it, but even he began to change." Marcus swallowed hard, staring at the faint glow seeping through the cloth. "Then maybe it's not about resisting it. Maybe it's about proving it doesn't have to be controlled the way they believe." Lyra's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't argue. Instead, she leaned back against the stone, her voice softer now. "If that is true, then we will need more than strength. We will need trust." Marcus nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling deep within him. For the first time since Daniel's death, he and Lyra were no longer two strangers forced together. They were allies in a fight that was only beginning. The sun rose slowly over the Sarathi city, casting long shadows across the cliffs where Marcus and Lyra had hidden through the night. Neither of them had slept much. The sound of patrols searching the grounds below had kept them tense and silent. Marcus clutched the heart of Ashara close, its faint hum a reminder that they carried something far greater than their own lives. When the sky turned gold, Lyra finally spoke. "We cannot hide here forever. The council will not stop until they have the heart. They will send Sarvan or worse." Marcus rubbed his tired eyes. "Then we need to stay one step ahead. My brother left me this for a reason. If he trusted me with it, I have to believe there's a way to use it." Her gaze hardened. "Do not speak like Daniel. That belief cost him everything." Marcus looked at her, searching her face. "But you loved him for it, didn't you? For believing in something bigger than himself." For a moment she didn't answer. Then with a sigh, she said, "Yes, and I fear I will lose you the same way." They returned to the house before the city fully awoke, slipping through the servants' passages to avoid notice. But it was clear the elders were growing suspicious. The great hall was crowded, whispers echoing from every corner as Marcus and Lyra entered. Sarvan stood at the far end, his arms crossed, his silver eyes locked on Marcus like a predator watching prey. That day the council summoned them. The chamber was vast, filled with carved pillars that seemed to stretch into the sky. Elders sat in a circle, their expressions calm but merciless. One of them spoke, his voice carrying like the rumble of thunder. "Marcus Kane, Widow Lyra, there are rumors of unrest, of secrets hidden where none should be. We ask you plainly, do you carry what Daniel stole?" Marcus's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He felt Lyra's eyes on him, sharp with warning. He forced his voice steady. "I don't know what you're talking about." The elder leaned forward, his expression darkening. "Do not play games with us. The Sarathi way is clear. What belongs to the clan cannot be hidden. If you are loyal to us, you will surrender it." The chamber grew silent. Marcus clenched, his fists, but kept his face still. "I came here to bury my brother and respect your traditions. I have nothing else." A murmur rose among the elders, their silver eyes narrowing. Sarvan stepped forward, his voice dripping with scorn. "A lie. Humans are not skilled in deceit. I can see it in his face. He knows more than he admits." Marcus felt the weight of their stares press down on him, but he refused to break. Lyra placed her hand gently on his arm, steady but subtle, reminding him to hold firm. When the council finally dismissed them, the tension lingered like smoke. As they left the chamber, Marcus whispered to Lyra, "They know." She nodded, her face pale. "Then we must be ready. The next move will not be words. It will be blood." That night, Marcus studied the heart again in their quarters. The silver. Markings shifted under his touch, forming patterns that seemed almost alive. He pressed one of the glowing lines, and the device responded with a low hum. For a moment, the air around him shimmered, as though reality itself had rippled. His breath caught in his throat. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes wide. "Stop. You do not know what you are awakening." "I need to understand it," Marcus said firmly. "If this thing can reshape worlds, if it can destroy or create, then maybe it can protect us. If Daniel trusted me with it, there must be a way." Before Lyra could answer, a crash echoed from the hallway. The door burst open and Sarvan stormed in with 2 armed guards. His voice rang with fury. "Enough lies! The council demands the heart, and I will take it from you by force." Marcus shoved the device into his cloak as the guards lunged forward. Instinct took over. He grabbed a heavy metal tool from the desk and swung it, knocking one guard to the ground. Lyra moved like a flash, striking the other guard across the face with a sharp blow that sent him reeling. Sarvan advanced, his blade glowing faintly with alien energy. "You are weak, human. Hand it over, and I may yet spare your life." Marcus felt the heart pulse in his hands, glowing through the cloth. Without thinking, he pressed his palm against it. A sudden surge of energy blasted outward, filling the room with light. Sarvan was thrown backward, his blade clattering across the floor. The walls shuddered, and a deep hum filled the air. When the light faded, the room was silent. The guards lay unconscious. Sarvan struggled to rise, his face twisted in shock. "Impossible," he hissed. "You awakened it." Marcus stood, breathing hard, the heart still glowing faintly in his hands. His voice shook but carried strength. "I'm done being your pawn. If you want this, you'll have to kill me." Sarvan glared, but the fear in his eyes betrayed him. He stumbled back, retreating into the shadows with his defeated guards. When the door closed behind them, Marcus sank to his knees, the relic heavy in his hands. Lyra knelt beside him, her face pale. "Now it begins," she whispered. "The council will see you as a threat. They will not rest until they have destroyed us both." Marcus looked at her, his jaw set with determination. "Then let them come. I won't run, and I won't give this up. If my brother died to protect it, then I'll finish what he started." Lyra's eyes softened, and for the first time she placed her hand over his. "Then we stand together. Whatever comes." The heart pulsed once more, as if responding to their vow. Marcus knew then that their lives were no longer about survival alone. The fate of 2 worlds was now in their hands. "Would you like me to move on with part 6, 800 words, where the clan's betrayal deepens and Marcus and Lyra are forced to flee for their lives?" The air in the Sarathi household grew heavier after the night Sarvan tried to take the heart. Every servant's glance lingered too long. Every whisper seemed to stop the moment Marcus and Lyra entered the room. The council no longer treated them as family bound by tradition, but as enemies holding something too dangerous to remain free. Marcus could feel it in the silence of the halls, in the way the elders no longer even pretended to smile. For 2 days, he and Lyra remained locked, in their chambers king only in hushed tones. Marcus studied the heart of Ashara at night, tracing the silver lines that glowed faintly beneath his touch. The more he held it, the more it seemed to recognize him, like it was alive. Sometimes the air would hum, and he could swear the walls trembled in response. He didn't understand it, but deep down he knew. This relic had chosen him. Lyra, however, was afraid. "The more you use it, the more it will consume you," she warned as they sat in the dim light. "It is not a gift. It is a burden." Marcus shook his head. "Daniel found it, and it killed him because he stood alone. We can't afford to run from it. If we're going to survive, I need to understand what it can do." Her eyes softened. "Then at least promise me you will not forget who you are." Daniel believed he could resist its call, but I watched him change. I cannot lose another Cain to this thing. That night, Marcus made his promise, but unease lingered. On the third evening, the council made their move. A feast was called, the tables filled with food that shimmered like jewels under the torchlight. The elders spoke of unity, of honoring Daniel's sacrifice and Marcus's role as the widow's protector. Marcus forced himself to eat, but he noticed the servants avoiding his eyes. He noticed Sarvan watching him with a smile that wasn't a smile at all. Halfway through the feast, Marcus's vision blurred. His cup of wine clattered to the table, spilling across his hands. The room spun violently. Poison. He tried to rise, but his legs betrayed him. Across the table, Lyra's face paled as she realized the truth. Without hesitation, she knocked her cup aside before it reached her lips. "Marcus!" she shouted, rushing to his side. The elders did not move to help. Sarvan stood slowly, his voice calm. "The council has decided. The heart must not remain with an unworthy human. It belongs to us. End this charade and give it to me." Marcus forced himself upright, though his body felt like fire. His hand fumbled at his cloak where the heart was hidden. He felt its pulse, against his skin, stronger now, louder, as if it sensed his danger. Lyra pulled him up, her arm around him. "We have to go." The hall erupted in chaos as guards moved to block their path. Lyra kicked over a brazier, sending fire spilling across the floor. Smoke filled the chamber and screams echoed as the flames leapt higher. Marcus and Lyra pushed through the confusion, dodging blades and leaping over fallen chairs. His vision blurred, but the heart burned in his grip, filling him with a strange energy that kept him moving. They burst into the night air, stumbling down the steps of the great house. Behind them, Sarvan's voice shouted orders, and the sound of armored boots followed. Marcus leaned heavily on Lyra as they ran through the twisting streets of the city. Torches lit the pathways, but shadows offered cover. The heart glowed faintly beneath his cloak, guiding his steps, or perhaps dragging him forward. It was hard to tell. When they reached the lower quarter, they ducked into an abandoned warehouse, collapsing behind a row of broken crates. Marcus gasped for air, sweat pouring down his face. The poison still burned in his veins, but the heart's strange hum dulled the worst of it, holding him back from the edge of collapse. Lyra knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she touched his face. "You should be dead. No human survives. That poison." Marcus forced a weak laugh. "Maybe I'm not doing this alone anymore." He lifted the heart slightly, its glow casting silver light across the shadows. Her eyes widened. "It is protecting you." Before Marcus could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed outside. Sarvan's voice carried through the night. "They are here! Search every corner!" Lyra gripped Marcus's arm. "We can't stay. If they find us now, it ends." Marcus staggered to his feet, the heart still clutched tight. "Then we run." "But not forever. I won't live like prey." They slipped out the back of the warehouse, darting into the maze of narrow alleys. The city seemed endless, its spires rising like watchful eyes. At every turn, Marcus expected to see guards waiting, but somehow they kept ahead of the hunt. The heart's glow grew brighter, pulsing like a beacon. Finally, they reached the cliffs beyond the city walls. The mist rolled thick below, the drop, sheer and unforgiving. Marcus looked back. Torches glimmered in the distance as Sarvan's hunters closed in. Lyra's face was pale in the moonlight. "There is nowhere left to go." Marcus stared at the heart, feeling its strange warmth seep into his bones. He looked at Lyra, then at the cliff. Maybe there is. Before fear could stop him, he held the heart out over the mist. The silver. Lines flared, brighter than they ever had before. The ground trembled, and the mist below parted, revealing a hidden path carved into the rock, glowing faintly with the same markings. Lyra gasped. "The heart is showing us the way." Marcus pulled, her hand into his voice steady despite the chaos. "Then we follow it, together." They descended into the glowing path, the light guiding them deeper into the unknown. Behind them, the shouts of the hunters grew fainter. For the first time, Marcus felt not like a prisoner or a pawn, but like it could remake reality itself. Lyra's voice echoed in the glow. Now you see why they fear it, why they kill to control it. The heart can build paradise or turn worlds to ash. Marcus clenched his fists. Then no one should control it. Not the council, not me, not anyone. The visions slowed, the chamber quieting as if waiting for his decision. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes reflecting the silver light. You speak as Daniel did. He wanted to share its power, to break the chains of tradition and give both our people a chance at something greater. But the council silenced him before he could act. Marcus looked at her, his chest heavy with grief and resolve. Then maybe it's my turn to finish his fight. Before he could say more, the sound of footsteps filled the tunnel. Sarvin's voice carried into the chamber, sharp and filled with triumph. So this is where you ran. The heart is mine at last. Dozens of armed Sarathi flooded into the cavern. The glow of their weapons cut through the mist. Sarvin stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the pedestal. Step aside, human. You are not worthy of what you hold. Marcus stood in front of the heart, his body blocking it. His voice was steady. No one is worthy, not if they mean to use it to rule. Daniel died trying to stop you. I won't let you have it, Sarvin sneered. Then you will die as he did. The guards surged forward, weapons raised. Marcus grabbed the heart from the pedestal, and its glow exploded outward. A wave of energy surged across the cavern, throwing the attackers back. The ground shook, cracks splitting the stone as light poured through them. The heart's hum rose into a roar. Marcus felt its power sear through him, demanding a choice. Images flooded his mind again. Destruction, creation, life, death, all balanced on the edge of his will. For a terrifying moment, he thought he might be consumed by it. But then he felt a hand grasp his. Lyra's hand, steady and warm. Her voice cut through the storm. You are not alone. Remember who you are. Her words anchored him. Marcus focused, not on power, not on conquest, but on what Daniel had wanted. Hope. He poured every thought, every memory, every ounce of his humanity into the heart. Not domination. Not destruction. Only unity. The heart answered. The cavern blazed with silver light brighter than any sun. Sarvin and his soldiers were forced to their knees, their weapons dissolving into harmless dust. The energy spread beyond the cavern, racing through the city above, touching every Sarathi. Marcus felt it ripple through him too, as if the heart had bound all of them in a single moment of clarity. When the light faded, the Sarathi stood silent, their faces filled with awe and fear. Sarvin fell back, his voice trembling. What have you done? Marcus lowered the heart, its glow dimming in his hands. His voice was quiet but carried across the chamber. I didn't destroy you. I didn't claim power. I showed you that. It doesn't belong to one clan, one council, or one man. It belongs to everyone, or to no one at all. The elders who had followed into the cavern bowed their heads, murmuring among themselves. For the first time, they did not look at Marcus as an outsider, but as someone who had changed their world. Lyra stepped to his side, her eyes shining. You chose differently than Daniel. You chose to share, not to control. Perhaps that is why the heart listened to you. Marcus looked at her, exhaustion and relief mixing in his chest. Maybe. Or maybe it was never about the heart at all. Maybe it was about proving that we don't have to be chained by fear. The Sarathi lowered their weapons. The council's hold was broken, their hunger for control silenced by what Marcus had done. For the first time, the future felt uncertain, but not hopeless. As they left the cavern together, Marcus and Lyra walked not as strangers bound by tradition, but as partners who had chosen one another in the face of everything. Daniel's shadow would always remain, but now it was not a weight of grief. It was a light guiding them forward. The heart of Ashara rested quiet in Marcus's hands, its glow faint, as if finally at peace. Whatever came next, he knew this. He would no longer be unwilling. He had chosen this path, chosen this fight, and chosen the woman at his side. Together, they would face the future, not as pawns of fortune, but as its makers.